a review for the upcoming meeting on the 20th of August at Randwick. Good looking meeting with the up and coming stakes, Silver Shadow, Show County, Randwick Stakes and the Toy Show, plus some other decent races with interesting runners that look like they'll go on to participate in a couple of good races later in their prep. So good meeting overall, and really looking forward to getting into it. So start with the first, which is, well, to start with probably the track conditions, the better thing to start with actually. So it's a good 4. Looks like they've come out with a press statement saying a chance of getting to a good 3. Not much in it. Randwick rail 3 metres. They'll still probably get off the inside, but not too unfortunate to draw inside there. I think that most you normally get your chance to get to the best part. I think all in all it should play pretty fair, unless there's some sort of crazy wind or the heavy rains arrive tomorrow, which are not really predicted. I think 1 to 5 mil, so probably a 4 or 5 is how I'd be looking at it, and somewhere, just a normal Randwick, 1 or 2 off, just behind the pace is the best place to be. So the first is probably one of the lacklustre races on the day, but not terrible. You've got a little bit of pace here with Kanachi having its 3rd run in 15 days in the race. You've also got Mr. Entertainer, which has started to go forward last preparation, but didn't do that last start. But there's a chance of going forward from a wide gate. Parapara will be up there, and they look the main solid speed, with Jungle Edge coming out early. So I'd say it'll be an evenish sort of tempo, but nothing too spectacular. Super Tycoon is the horse that's just absolutely flying. Definitely the horse to beat. The handicap is starting to catch up to it, but he's still going extra well, and it's hard to knock him in the form that he's in. 3 weeks since he was last seen, and staying around this 1400 metre mark's ideal. Other good chances in the race. It is about the $2.80, $3 mark at best at the moment, so that's pricing is quite skinny. So it's not something I want to be jumping out of trees to back by any means, but it's hard to knock the horse. Parapara's needed the run first up, put away a Provincial Country race the other day. He'll be in the right spot, and he's a good tough horse. He'll be right there around the $7 mark. Again, not huge value there, but probably about its right price. Pindan Pearl, 4 weeks between runs, coming back in trip dramatically. I'm thinking that's not a bad thing, and it does get an inside soft gate. He's probably going to get back. We'll need luck. It's not great value at around the 9 to 2 mark in early betting. Kanachi's obviously going well, probably in its best form, and may give them something to catch again. He's got the right jockey with Abdullah maintaining. So it's probably the one for Super Tycoon to run down, and then Torgerson, who's had some quiet trials since first up, drawing inside. It's hard to gauge what it's going to be ready to do, and betting's probably the best guide there. Not a race I'm really looking to get too excited about. If you want to have a bet, Super Tycoon's the one to beat, and does tick all the boxes, but not a lot of value. Race 2, the 2400 metre race, and this is an interesting race because Lie Direct's come out offering a huge win last start. Shows up here 2 to 1 favourite, but did have everything in its favour. That complete bog track, huge margins which were forgivable, or hard to, you've got to look past them. They're not realistic margins, which is the way the track was that day. This time it runs into it sort of led and dictated that day. Today it's got Gouds and Charlie, who's been rolling forward, Paragon, who's a mad leader, Shirley Girl, who gets up on the pace, and so will Braces over 2400 metres. So it's not going to have its own way like it has previously, and that's a good test for it. Richard of York's interesting horse. Sorry if we go to the right race. Richard of York's an interesting horse. Going up 500 metres is definitely a big negative for most horses, especially getting to a 2400 metre trip, but it is a Chris Waller horse. It has won over that sort of distance in the UK, which is pretty irrelevant, but is a positive if anything. it's having its second preparation. Sorry, it's first preparation for Waller, but you can see that it's had a preparation before where it hasn't gone to the races. So treating it as a second preparation, a mile run, a 1250 metre trial, then a 1900 metre run. The beauty of it the other day was against a very slow pace. We'll see that he settles back. Sim lasting screen here, settles back, and even though he's off the bit here, which he's entitled to be because he's obviously not a sit sprinter, gets checked there. His last 200 metres of his race is really quite strong. These horses in front of him have had a better fitness grounding than him, so he's entitled to not run past them, especially with a slow pace against him as well. And he gets past Olympic Academy and just fails to run down Multitude. So his effort was good. If he'd had another run somewhere up around this distance mark, I'd be quite keen on him. He does look the run on, but he hasn't. So it's a little bit difficult. He's coming off a slow track back to a good track, which may help him. He's probably the one to beat still, but with that query of the 500 metres up in distance, even with Bowman, Waller, and ticking every other box, the fitness and distance run prior is really quite important when you get to this distance range, especially in a race that looks like it will be testing from a speed perspective. So I prefer to play this race very quietly. Race 3, the Highway. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's the deepest highway, it's a mile class 3, but it's a race where plenty of improvement can be made by a number of runners. So starting from the top, new divides on the 7-day back up, two solid runs back. It's an on-pace horse, drawn the middle of the line here, which looks ideal. He's got a bit of weight, but nothing that should stop him. He should get into a good challenging position, and he should be ready to do something now. He has got a bit of ability, and he's definitely up to a race of this nature if he's hitting top form, and he'll be hard to beat. Jeremy Sylvester's horse High Tech, you've just got to put a line through its last run when it was back sharply in trip on that really heavy track. It looked like it was ready to do something up until its last two starts, which were both complete forgives. I'm assuming you'll get some value about it here. I think it's at $41 currently, and the top one, was $21. New divide, $41 for High Tech, and that's plenty of value for me to want to have something on it or have a good look at it. Squid and Squiz, number 6 in the race, drawn terribly in 17. It probably should have won its last 3 or 4. Last time it did get the job done, and its last part of its race, every start, has been its best. The mile is going to eat it up, I'd say. It looks really well placed over this distance range, and $18 looks exceptionally good value for it. I think the White Gate, Matthew Carl, all he's got to do is get sort of a 3 wide, 4 wide trail there somewhere coming to the turn, and he will be strong late. He is suited to Randwick, so it's a horse I'm definitely interested in. Distinctive look with Bowman, Gate 1. Probably suits that horse. It's obviously had issues. I think it had an operation while it was out. Its first couple of runs back were a bit dusty while it was trying to find a bit of form, and it fought back strongly the other day on a really wet track in the right part of the track to win. $7 is not for me, but it wouldn't surprise if it was in the finish. It has got ability, but it seems to be priced right down because of the last start win and Bowman taking the ride. Grand Rouge is obviously going very well. Terry Robinson's won a few of these highway races lately with the stablemate, and he seems priced right up to his best too, though. For mine around the $4.80, $5 mark. He can win again, but I'm not keen to jump into it. The Kiko Gold for Tommy Berry is the one that probably has the best form. Last start it was 32 days, so nearly 5 weeks between runs, going from 1200 to 1500, and battled on quite well. It did have its chance there, but it is the one that can improve significantly out of that race, and drawn again solidly and up to the mile with that run under its belt now will put it in good stead for this race. The other runner I thought had a good chance was Iron Nikoni. It draws tough, and it does drop in weight, And it's one that if it lobs in a position, which most of them should find as some sort of solid position, I don't think wide barriers are going to be too big a disadvantage in this race. Sometimes they stay out of trouble in these highways if they do draw those wide gates, and it is one with the ability to figure in the finish at around the 20-1 mark. So, recapping the race, I think Squid and Squiz is definitely the value at the $18. New Divide High Tech around the $21 and $41 mark. I could definitely have some sort of play on. Kiko Gold, I'd be throwing in my multiples at the $4.20. It's probably about its right price. Maybe I'd probably price it around the $5.50 mark. And I own an Accounting at $21. Definitely looks not a bad option as well. So playing a few roughies here and definitely hoping for a split. But I don't think there's anywhere near between them what the market suggests. So next race is the up and coming stakes. Top weight 61 kilos resuming is the winner of the Group 1 his last start, and he's trolling okay. I'm very concerned with all that form to a certain degree. I'm wanting to see all of those horses come back and do something before I want to basically re-rank them, the 2-year-olds. So I think it's a big task for this horse first up over the 1300 with a big weight, and I think it's probably justified around the $11 quota where it is currently. I see that Gay's decided to throw Thronim in here as a late entry, and McDonald takes the ride, looks to control the speed, hard fit, and obviously has to be the one to beat on Sydney form anyway. It's the benchmark so far for these sort of horses, even though it was probably a little bit lucky to win last start, but I didn't think that the ride was to its advantage either, so it's going well. Divine Prophet for me is a horse I always was keen to look at coming back as a 3-year-old. I've really liked his trials, just worried about how big a start he's going to give from that 9 gate, and I think he'll be getting home strongly, and he's wonderful. Looking forward to races like the Golden Rose down the line. Darren's an interesting horse if we look at him. So he's had 2,000 metre runs, and now here he is again over the 1,000. Sorry, 13. Now he's 1,300 going the Sydney way. Show here that he's eased out of it over the 1,000. His win's very good here. He nearly checks out of it and ends up a lot further back than he possibly had to be. So I'm not sure what the tactics will be here because he's drawn awkwardly again, but he can definitely hold a more forward position than this if required. If we just watch him here. Sorry, this is Darren here coming to the outside in the red and white stripes. And his last 150 is his best part of his race. So a good sign that he's the only one really doing a lot down the outside there in that race, and he's quite dominant late. So if he gets to 1,300, he'll be right in the finish. The other horse, or the other 2 horses that I'm keen to look at here are Pound Sterling, who comes out of a really strong 3-year-old maiden. I know that's a tough bounce for this sort of event. Usually Evanos has come out and run well since, and I don't think he was suited the way he was ridden or on that track first up. Pound Sterling, he got through it and he was strong. I think it's a good track, 1,300 Randwick's going to suit him, and I think he's a very promising horse. Walk Right In's fitter for 2 runs back. I thought it bloomed into the race. It sort of just dipped there and maybe struggled in the going a little bit, but he chimes in both starts this time in, and maybe this is thrown a Mediterranean. Walk Right In sort of chiming up and maybe gets a little bit tired, but does find a little bit there, and I just think it's an underrated type that at the 40-1's probably the best each way play in the race, but definitely an underrated type all in all. Pounder Sterling at $13 mark seems the value in the race, and Divine Prophet's the other one I'd be probably keen to have something on. So they're the 3 main players for mine. Thronim I'm not sure whether he's going to keep backing up. He's had a tough first prep already, and it's just hard to keep going to the well of these, well, now 3-year-olds, so it's 4th run in. All pretty tough runs, 3 of them on heavy tracks, so done a good job. Race 5, the Silver Shadow. And the return of Ome Sword is the interesting one for mine. I'll have a quick look at the end of its last 2 trials. Settles back in both of them, so it's back here pulling, second last. Back here with a white cap. Looks like Brent Abdullah on it. So Russian Revolution's the smart horse from the Snowden yard. This is Ome Sword bursting through. Drachenfels has come out and run well in a provincial maiden. Quite irrelevant really. The first 2 are the ones, and had another trial since. Back on the fence here. Nearly identical, except doesn't get quite as much room as last time. She looks to be absolutely flying, and she's definitely the horse to beat here for mine. She had the best form before she went out, and looks like she's going to be hard to beat here. The one horse I am scared of in the race is Calliope. She's got some issues. She's only had 1 trial. If she steps, I think she's the clear danger and the only one I'm scared of. It does look enough pace on paper with The Lady's Not Out, Time for Roses, Baccarella, Rather Sweet, Alluvian, all engaged and all wanting to be up there. Even Zafina can go forward, so I think there's plenty of pressure, and it's going to play in there to the hands of Ome Sword and Calliope. Benet has been heavily backed, and even though she looks really revved up and ready to go here, she's one that's like right up against it for me class-wise, and if she wins this, she's the real deal. Race 6, and a very dicey race that I don't really want to get too interested in. Not a lot of speed. You've got this kind of Tycoon Taravashka, Machine, who have got speed but usually over further, so they're not going to be going too hard. Maybe decision times even up there over this trip, and I can't see them going overly hard here. I think that plays into the hands of Boss Lane and Le Romain, who will be sitting behind the speed and can have a shot at them. I really like Boss Lane's little turn of foot he's got. I think if they went quick here, it'd drag it out of him first up 1200, so slower speed's going to play into his hands, and Le Romain, if he has any luck from that inside gate's the one to beat. His form is really solid. I think 1200 metres is a much better trip for him, and he's trialling really well coming into this. He's definitely the one to beat for mine. I think they're $7 and $5 is probably good enough value. I'd probably have more on Boss Lane and less on Le Romain, only because of the gate, but I'd still want to make them both positive results. Race 7 and the return of Winks, which is obviously really exciting, but she stifles betting and really makes it difficult to bet around her. I'm trying to find some value and think maybe Hartnell's around the $12 or $13 mark's the one for the place that you could throw in. There looks 4 possible place chances in Hartnell, Rebel Dane, who looks the leader maybe here, and Lucello Valentino, who's trialled really well and looks to have come back really solidly. So if you're going to play a straight outish trifecta, maybe Winks, Hartnell, Lucia, Winks, Lucia, Hartnell, maybe the best option. Race 8, the Toy Show, and another race that really does look interesting and a good betting race. There's a horse here in Dixie Blossoms that went through to a Group 3, and beaten a 3/4 of a length by single gaze at her 5th start in her first preparation over a mile. So she's showed a lot of potential in her first preparation, and she's returned and really looks to be trialling well. If we watch her here, this is her getting home down the outside. This is Haptic, who's a fast horse, 1,000-metre horse, so to be trialling in a similar fashion, like hard on the bit and still working home in a trial this Haptic is a good sign for a filly that's you know, this is 1300 metres and she probably wants a little bit further in time, but she definitely looks like she's done enough work to get through the 1300 metres first up, and she should get enough pace here from Thrill Seeking and the leader in Sataya. It should put enough speed on. He's drawn ideally to sort of follow Thrill Seeking across and slot in somewhere just off the speed. I'd say she's got good natural pace, so I can't see her being right out the back, and she'll be right there and very, very hard to beat. The top weight in Heavens Above's got all the group form. She's sort of only beaten 2 lengths by Ascadelia last time in that Group 1 mares race weight for age, so even though she's got the 59 here and she's got to give 5 kilos to the rest of them, that seems fair enough. Bowman to ride, probably going to give them a start. She'll be rattling, and she's a very classy horse that shouldn't be underestimated. $8 is more than fair for her in this race. But I'm not saying it's an absolute 2-horse race, but they're definitely the 2 I'm playing with. Probably a clear third pick, Pearls, from an inside gate with the blinkers on, which she didn't have last time when she resumed. And 1200 metres, 1300 metres is much more her go for mine than the distance she was getting out to. Lucky Last, and the return of a couple of smart sprinters in Southern Legend and Haptic. I really do think it's between them who wins this race. Southern Legend probably not fully wound up here, and maybe a little bit vulnerable. He's got a little bit of a tough gait, and he may be a little bit vulnerable fitness wise, but he's definitely the horse to beat still, and the one on the up for mine. Haptic's first up for 311 days, has trialled very well twice, and has a little bit more speed than Southern Legend as a rule, so probably should be in front of him and probably the one to run down. If you forgive Shahrazad the second up run on that the track behind Alba Cedar and Glenbourne Dane, you can definitely entertain her chances of 4 weeks between freshen up back to 1,000 metres. Could be the key to her, and she looks a little bit dangerous around the 10 to 1 mark, so no great value here in Southern Legend or Haptic, but I do really think it is a 2-horse race, and probably looking to the future, just to keep a good eye on Southern Legend. He does look like one that could end up probably going to some good races here in the spring, and even going down to Melbourne and being competitive. He definitely looks a progressive sort of horse, so that was a pretty quick go through of the meeting. I'll go through it again on Saturday if there's any major changes, and if not, hopefully there's been some help there. There's some good horses going around for the first time in a while, or there's a lot more depth to the meeting, especially the back half of it, so we'll learn a lot about a few of horses going forward for some major races like the Golden Rose and even the Weight for Age races in Sydney and Melbourne over the spring. So a good day, and looking forward to it. Cheers, guys.